Andy Johnson. We are looking at literacy instruction and the field of special education. Now, a little context. Special education is not a monolithic field. This is a field in which everyone believes the same thing, has the same beliefs, thinks in the same way, comes to the same conclusion. That is just not the way it is in any field in education and in special education. The field is diverse, wonderfully diverse, and it's this diversity of perspectives that has the potential to keep us moving forward. If everyone believes the same thing, there's not much growth there. Now, three major perspectives: behaviorism, cognitive psychology and or constructivism, neuroscience or neurocognitive science. And sometimes these categories merge. And then I'm going to add a fourth one, the humanistic learning theory, not very prominent, where the purpose is self-actualization. A little bit more on that. But behaviorists say that learning is a behavior, a change in behavior. We measure behavior, we teach to behavioral objectives. Constructivist cognitive psychology says, well, learning is not a behavior. You can actually observe it. It is a change in thinking, in the cognitive structures, in schema and schemata. Hence, we tend to gravitate towards purpose statements versus behavioral objectives. This is the way teachers think. I want students to learn about, not I want them to demonstrate the learning by. Now, a neurocognitive perspective, or neurocognitivists, however you want to say it, says learning is a physical change in the brain. That as a result of learning, there are new neural pathways, neural networks. As we act upon the world acts upon us. And again, we believe in purpose statements versus behavioral objectives. In special education, there are a whole bunch of people asking different questions, looking at different bodies of research, looking at research based on different premises, and coming to different conclusions. Now, I believe that I tend to favor a cognitive perspective or a neurocognitive perspective or a humanistic perspective, where I believe the purpose of education is for all students to reach their full potential intellectually, cognitively, emotionally, socially, creatively, spiritually. We can change the world by changing each individual kid, change the world one kid at a time. Now, segregated instruction should be limited from this perspective. This is the pullout or the resource room where students go into special education classrooms given special instruction. But here's the thing, from a literacy perspective, are there super secret special education strategies that only super secret specially trained special education teachers can use? No, actually not. I've taught special ed, gifted ed, general ed. The same processes are used. There's no super secret strategies. We're not teaching a different species. We're teaching human beings. Here's another question. Once a kid, say with a learning disability, once they enter that super secret special education classroom where they use super secret strategies, do they ever leave? Think about that. All students, and there's a variety of research to support this, learn best both cognitively, emotionally, and socially when included in a general education setting to the greatest degree possible. This is called inclusion or an inclusive classroom. Pull-out segregated instruction should be the very last option. It's called the least restrictive environment. I would invite us to think of us not as special education teachers, but as educational specialists that go into an inclusive classroom setting and help gen ed teachers to differentiate a common curriculum so that all students can learn. All humans learn literacy the same way. The same processes are used. Now, they may need a little less of some things and a little more of other things, but we all use the same cognitive processes to use. The same strategies, and again, I've taught in special education classrooms, gen ed, GIF, the same strategies are used no matter what the classroom is. Special education, thus, should be a service, not a place, not a destination, but a service. In the field of education, special education, you'll encounter a range of philosophies and perspectives. Now, these are different conclusions based on a different set of data. We're all passionate about our perspectives, and we're all convinced that our perspective is the right perspective. I have colleagues whom I respect. They think I'm a little goofy. I think they're a little goofy, but we're all passionate about our perspective. However, I would invite you to think about this. In special education, 70 to 80% of the students have a reading or a literacy deficit of some sort. 70 to 80%. In special education setting, students rarely get improved access to expert intensive reading instruction. Now, this is not just goofy old Dr. Johnson saying this. Look at the standards in the teacher education programs. Special education teachers often do not have the expertise in all aspects of reading instruction that reading specialists do and that elementary teachers have. In special education programs for learning disability, students rarely experience accelerated reading once they begin special education services in that special classroom down the hall. And you can stop the tape here, the video, and you can look up those articles there if you so desire. Riddle me this, Batman. What should we do? Should special education continue to exist in its present form? Is special education special in any way? How should special education function? In special education, what we do and do not know has real-world implications. It affects the quality of life of real students. Reading is a social justice issue.